Okay, picture this. You wake up with just a terrible ache in your joints. You go to your modern doctor and they hand you a prescription for a super strong painkiller. You take it, the pain stops, but a week later your stomach is constantly upset from the side effects. Frustrated, you mention this to a friend who immediately says, "Oh, you've got to try this ancient Ayurvedic herbal mix. It's all natural, cures everything, no side effects." And suddenly you're left standing right in the middle. You're staring at a modern chemical pill in one hand and an ancient herbal powder in the other. Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to grab a cup of coffee, sit down, and cut through all the noise surrounding this exact dilemma. So what does the science actually say about these two? We're going to answer this core question head on. We're going to look at Ayurveda, our ancient traditional medicine, versus Allopathy, our modern Western medicine, completely objectively. No opinions, no taking sides, just looking purely at what the scientific research tells us. We'll break down these core concepts to finally figure out how they work, where they fail, and how you can actually use both of them to live a healthier life. All right, let's dive into this. Here's our exact roadmap for today. We'll start with modern medicine, then move to Ayurveda, cover the evidence battle, dive into the safety trap, and wrap it all up with a big takeaway. Starting with Section 1, Modern Medicine or Allopathy, the Targeted Strike. This is exactly what you get at a standard hospital. It relies on what we call a reductionist approach. That's really just a fancy way of saying it takes massive problems and breaks them down into tiny single causes, like targeting one specific bacteria with a specific chemical drug. Now, you might be wondering, why does this targeted approach matter so much? Well, because if you're in a real emergency, modern medicine is an absolute miracle. This system provides unparalleled, lightning-fast results for acute trauma, emergency care, and surgeries. Think about it like this. If you break your leg in a car crash or have a sudden heart attack, you don't want herbal tea, right? You want the emergency room, advanced diagnostics, and immediate surgical intervention. Honestly, the best way to understand this is with a simple analogy. Modern medicine is like the fire department. When your house is completely engulfed in flames, they show up with massive hoses and axes to smash through the door and extinguish that fire immediately. They save the house, which is incredible, but, they might leave some water damage and broken windows behind in the process. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Actually, scratch that. It's pretty shocking when you see what happens when we misunderstand this system. If we rely on that fire department for every tiny problem, we end up causing a lot of unnecessary damage. Treating chronic, long-term illnesses like diabetes or arthritis with strong, single-molecule drugs often leads to severe side effects. The wild fact here is that injuries and adverse reactions caused by modern medical treatments themselves, which are known as iatrogenic illnesses, account for hundreds of thousands of deaths annually. In fact, medical interventions are actually the third leading cause of death in the United States, right behind heart disease and cancer. And that is exactly what happens when we use emergency tools for non-emergency, chronic issues. Which brings us to Section 2, Ayurveda. The system's approach. This 5,000-year-old Indian medical system doesn't target single symptoms at all. Instead, it treats the entire body as an interconnected system to find the root cause and restore natural balance, or homeostasis, using diet, herbs, and physical therapies. So why does this matter for us? While Ayurveda definitely isn't meant for those sudden emergencies we just talked about, it absolutely shines when it comes to chronic, long-term conditions like metabolic issues and joint inflammation. It's heavily focused on prevention and long-term wellness. Let's look at an everyday example. Imagine two people go to an Ayurvedic doctor with the exact same modern diagnosis, type 2 diabetes. Instead of handing them the exact same pill, the Ayurvedic doctor looks at their unique body constitutions, which is called their prakriti. Based on that, the doctor gives them completely different herbal formulas, different diets, and completely different exercise plans. So if modern medicine is the fire department, Ayurveda is like a master gardener. If a plant's leaves are turning yellow, a master gardener doesn't just, paint the leaves green to hide the symptom. They check the soil, they adjust the water, they make sure the plant is getting the right sunlight. They systematically fix the environment so the plant can heal itself. But what happens if we misunderstand Ayurveda? Well, if people expect it to act like a fast-acting painkiller, they're going to be really disappointed. It takes time to change the body's soil. But ignoring Ayurveda means missing out on some incredible preventative care. Here is an amazing scientific fact for you. Research shows that complex Ayurvedic treatments actually cause a systemic shift in the body's metabolism, actively modulating cellular processes to bring biological humors back into a state of balance. It's a deep, systemic healing process. Moving on to Section 3, the evidence battle, and why testing is just so complicated here. Why is it a battle? Because to prove a medicine works, modern science uses a randomized controlled trial, or RCT, which is specifically designed to isolate one single chemical. Since Ayurveda uses a really complex combination of herbs and lifestyle changes all at once, it really struggles in these rigid modern tests. And this clash is exactly why you'll often hear people claim Ayurveda isn't backed by science. But honestly, the problem isn't always the traditional medicine. Sometimes the problem is the test itself. Scientists are now finally realizing they need a completely new approach called whole system research to test the entire Ayurvedic lifestyle package. Because trying to prove an Ayurvedic lifestyle works using a single chemical modern drug test is literally like trying to figure out why a cake tastes so good by just eating a spoonful of raw flour. You have to experience the whole baked cake to understand the real effect. And this brilliantly illustrates the whole divide. Modern testing is like evaluating a solo violinist, while Ayurveda is a full orchestra. You simply cannot judge the beauty of a symphony by forcing the musicians to play one instrument at a time in separate rooms. If we dismiss traditional medicine just because it doesn't easily fit into a modern test tube, we're basically throwing away thousands of years of effective treatments. But get this, when researchers finally designed fair tests, the results were stunning. In rigorous clinical trials for knee osteoarthritis, Ayurvedic medicine provided the exact same pain relief and joint improvement as the modern drugs glucosamine and celecoxib. And in another study for rheumatoid arthritis, an Ayurvedic regimen was found to be just as effective as the heavy-duty conventional drug methotrexate. So when tested correctly, the science absolutely backs the ancient wisdom up. Which leads us directly to Section 4, the safety trap. There is this massive misconception out there that just because herbal medicine comes from the earth, it's 100% safe. But due to modern processing and a serious lack of regulation, we are facing a massive heavy metal contamination issue. If you blindly buy traditional herbal medicines off the internet without checking their source, you could literally be poisoning yourself. Say you buy an herbal supplement online to help with some stomach pain. You assume it's totally safe because the label clearly says 100% natural herbs. But because of poor manufacturing standards, that pill might contain toxic levels of lead or mercury, which is going to cause severe organ damage over time. Taking unregulated herbal medicine is exactly like drinking water from a pristine mountain spring that just flowed through an industrial factory. The water started out natural, for sure, but the modern process completely contaminated it. So the crucial point we have to understand is the real-world consequences of believing natural is always safe. An investigation of Ayurvedic products sold right in Boston grocery stores revealed that 1 in 5, that is 20% of the products sitting on the shelf, contained potentially harmful levels of lead, mercury, or arsenic. And because of these terrifying issues, countries have drastically different rules on how to handle all this. In the US, Ayurvedic products are regulated simply as dietary supplements. This means absolutely no pre-market approval is required, which puts the burden of safety entirely on the manufacturer. Meanwhile, the European Union takes a drastically different approach. They're incredibly strict, banning many traditional remedies unless they can explicitly prove 30 years of safe, continuous use. All right, bringing us to Section 5, the big takeaway. Why should you care about all this? And what should you do differently? The single most important thing you can do is stop treating health as an either-or battle. The science clearly shows us that neither system is complete on its own. Use modern medicine when your house is on fire. If you have a severe infection, a broken bone, or an acute emergency, go straight to the hospital. Modern medicine's targeted strikes are completely unmatched for saving lives. But use Ayurveda to tend your garden. If you're dealing with chronic pain, inflammation, or you just want to prevent diseases from happening in the first place, look into whole body systems like Ayurveda. It offers some incredible, scientifically validated tools for long-term health. So here's your exact 3-step practical action plan based on the science. Step 1, respect the power of both. Appreciate modern medicine for its life-saving precision, but be wary of relying on it for long-term lifestyle diseases. Step 2, be a smart consumer. If you do try Ayurvedic herbs, never buy random products online. Always look for high-quality, regulated brands that do rigorous testing for heavy metals and purity. And step 3, focus on the whole system. Remember that taking a single herb isn't going to fix a bad diet. True traditional medicine involves upgrading your nutrition, reducing your stress, and actively moving your body. I want to leave you with this final thought. By combining the life-saving technology of modern science with the holistic, preventative wisdom of ancient traditions, you truly get the absolute best of both worlds. So I have to ask you, how will you stop treating health as an either-or battle in your own life? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this helps you make the most informed choices for your own well-being.